Hey everybody, Preston Brent here with our Trader User Group Weekly Roundup. This is for the trading week ending August 28th, 2015. What a past couple of weeks we've had. Um, for the opportunistic trader, for the true trader, it has been a great 2 weeks because you can it just seems like there are opportunities all over the place, both to the upside and downside in the same asset. I mean, it's just really great opportunities here. What I've got on the screen here is a weekly chart of the SPX, the cash index. I want to just kind of take a step out, and just show you here um, this trade here going all the way back to October of 2011. And then, of course, with this big drop that we just had just recently here. So I wanted to just kind of take a step back because next week's going to be a very interesting week. We're going into Labor Day weekend. It'll be a long weekend. So I think we're going to see some really interesting chop here in the week, to say the least. Now, we've been in this uptrend for quite some time. The only time that we really got out of it, very briefly, was right there in October of 2014. And now we're doing the same thing again, although this was a little bit more difficult than the one back in October 2014. In fact, we had the largest volatility pop in the history of the markets, more than doubled over the past week or so, and then we just had some really huge down days. Volatility just went right through the roof, and for a lot of people that were playing short, had a lot of premium out there, they probably got margin calls because it was a very difficult market for those folks. If you are a trader and you're opportunistic and you're long and short and you either go to cash or you're pretty quick on this, these are the times you live for because they're a lot of fun to trade, quite frankly. But for our group, I was telling everybody for quite some time, as we were continuing to make this up move here, and we were making higher highs here, I was pointing this out. In fact, I pointed this out in our chat room, pointed it out in our weekly updates here that, and then we got into 2015 and we were in this long period here. So we were all expecting in our group a down move, but the severity of the move was the speed, not necessarily the distance, but the speed, which just happened so quick, which really popped up vol dramatically. And, I think it was over 128% or something unbelievable, the entire vol. It was up. In fact, volatility closed the week here at roughly around 29 or so. So it's just really a quick move here that everybody was concerned about. So now if we just zoom in a little bit here, let me just see if I can't just get a little bit of a better picture on this and just kind of show you guys what I'm going to be expecting. Now, we've been playing this. We've been calling these things, and we've switched more towards an opportunistic thing, and we've been playing this fairly well here in our group. You can see here where I've got this zone highlighted here. It is a support and or a resistance zone, depending on the direction you're pulling it from. Again, you can see the bearish divergence here as we were making these new highs. So this move here was not a surprise. The severity and the quickness, of course, was, but not the move itself. So you can see that handle here on this weekly chart, the hammer on this weekly chart, and generally you need to get another print to be able to confirm this thing. And if we get some follow through and we clear this shaded zone here, then we're going to come back up to the opening price of the E-minis or the SPX for the year, which is that blue line right there. You could see just how long we went down here. Our line in the sand number has always been right here. Okay, this is going to separate. It's just going to be a very ugly time, or we're going to get through this with a little bit of damage, but we'll be able to get through it. And that was the lows essentially made back in October, and it was tested again back in the summer of 2014. You can see it there. So if this holds up, we should do good. Okay, I mean that's good, meaning it's I guess it's a relative term depending on how you're playing the markets, but good in the sense that I don't really see this being very damaging. I do see moving up a little bit and then possibly coming back down. I don't think we're going to retest that Monday low where we did that really big dip. I could see us retesting somewhere down in here, stabilizing, and then kind of coming back to the opening price of the E-minis as we get through September into October. But I think there's going to be some hairy moments out there. I think that's going to be a given. I think we're going to have some of those hairy moments. I think it's going to push the price down, and it's not going to feel comfortable for a lot of people. But that's kind of where we're sitting right now. If I come to a daily chart, let's zoom in a little bit more here, and you'll see this on the SPX. You can see here, and it really is amazing. We sat here almost the entire year. And you can see the blue line, which is the opening price of the E-minis for the year. Okay. And you can see the opening price. And now we're just, and if you look at this, you can see that we're just bouncing around like crazy. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. We're just bouncing. The E-minis are bouncing around as we go into close here. But look at these hard down moves that we had. I mean, just very, very hard down move. And now we're getting a counter trend move. I mean, that's just to be expected. I know some people are saying it's going to get very ugly. I don't believe that. I do believe we're going to come back down and test this. But you can see this down move here. I believe we're going to kind of come up. We're in this zone right here. And we may go just a little bit higher, but I think we're going to come down and probably test this area right here. I don't think we're going to test this area right here, but I think we may come down and test that area right there. Okay, that's kind of what I think may happen. And you know, in testing that area, if we look at it, you know, we're looking at the 1904 area, right? There's like a 1920, 1904 area, kind of area that we may test, but I don't see us going much below that. You can see here, and I'm just going to adjust this down here. This was the low made in the SPX for the year, right at 1867.01. I just put it down here, but I can see us coming down and testing this 1904 area here, and then just kind of stabilizing just a little bit. And you know, the markets, if we look at the E-mini futures, what's really interesting here is as we close the day, it was fairly weak, and I'm going to come into a 30-minute here. But you can see here, as we closed, we had this huge move up just after the markets closed. They moved the markets up on us a little bit here. Right into close, you can see that little bit of a bullish move right there, and then it's probably going to give it up a little bit. But the one I want to show you is the volatility futures. If we look at September vol futures, look at what it did in the last. And let me put it on a 15-minute chart, and you can see a little bit better. You can see here volatility. I mean, it gave it all up starting right at about 1545, and it came all the way back down very quickly. Now, the E-minis were relatively flat today, or trading in a tight range. So if I keep it on a 15-minute chart and I put the E-minis on here, you can see here this range. We're in this resistance zone here. We're trying to break out just a little bit to the top side here. The E-minis are, you know, they're already up to about 1. But it's interesting how the markets were pushing the price down until we go into close, and then boom, they just release it, and boom, up we go a little bit. So I just find that an interesting move into close, guys. But again, we're going to get more of this next week, right? We're going to get more of this play here. Now on the E-minis, well, let me get the sub chart restored on this graph here. If you look at this, you can see again on this daily chart with the E-mini futures. Oh, it'd be helpful if I could get this over here, wouldn't it? And let me just stretch it out for you guys, and we'll move it out and just really kind of stretch it for you, because it's such a big move. I mean, it's just really like this. I've got a lot of, as you can see, I've got a lot of things going on this chart here. And let me just take this off the screen here real quick so that it clears it up a little bit. I got a lot going on in this chart. I've got this up channel that is going to probably run into this downsloping channel, a larger downsloping channel around a little over 2000, but we're at 1988 now. I mean, the E-minis moved up just a little bit into close. And if I put it back on the 15-minute chart, you'll see that upsloping channel here. If I just kind of take it down a little bit, you can see we've been in this channel here really since evening close on the 25th, and I was having our members go long. I was going long, and we just rode this all the way up. All right, it was just a great ride. And then right in this area here for today, it was fairly hard to trade if you were trying to go longer term. But if you were just selling the peaks and buying the valleys in the E-minis, you could take some points out of the market. Okay, I mean, you can take some points out. But even be that as it may, if we come back to the daily chart, all right, well, let's do a 2-hour chart. I do believe we're going to see some downside action here. You can see this upsloping channel here as it goes higher, and I'll adjust it for our members next week. But you can see here where we've got this little bit of a dip here, but I think it's going to run into this whole shaded area here as a resistance. Now, if we look at the Russell, what was really interesting was the Russell was in the green for the afternoon. I mean, and it finished up 10 points. Which it was one of the most punished securities out there. And then, it just finished up here on this 2-hour chart. You can see here how the Russell just, it started up this morning at 6 a.m. and it didn't have a downtick on the 2-hour chart. Okay. And if we look at the NASDAQ, it was relatively flat today. The NASDAQ 100 futures, relatively flat. You can see on this 2-hour chart how we're having a hard time getting above this 43.31 area. But again, you've got to step out and you've got to look at this in context. And if we step out and look at this, volatility just went through the roof. Here's the daily chart again. And it was such a dramatic move from a volatility perspective, and from we haven't had this volatility pop ever in the history of the markets. The markets have moved this quick, but not volatility. I think part of it is because we've got more automated trading. We got more black boxes out there than we did back in 1987 when we had Black Monday, when the markets fell 22%. But you can see these huge candlesticks up. I do believe we're going to run into some more resistance up in this area here, and it's probably going to roll back over again. This blue line is the opening price of the E-minis for the year at 20.55. I don't think we're going to make it up there. I think we're going to have a roll next week, come down in the E-minis and test the 1948, the 1920. We may even come down and test 1890 or possibly 1866. But I do believe, the pattern is probably going to be one of these kind of things. We're up in this little thing here, and we'll probably come down as soon as we break this channel, and I'll just extend the channel next week. As soon as we break this channel, we're going to find some support in this area here. We may come up, and then we're going to come down, and we're probably going to test 1920. And it's probably going to get ugly, and it'll probably come down, maybe 1900, maybe in this area here. I don't really see it going much further than this, and then gradually turning back up again. So that'll give us higher lows in the pivots, right? And then on a daily basis, something like this. And then we'll kind of grind a little bit. We may even chop sideways a little bit. But I think the low has been put in. Now, I may be proven wrong. If I see the chart patterns change, then, I'm going to let our members know. But right now, I think this low has been put in on the daily basis on the E-minis. Okay, that's the way I'm seeing it right now. Now, the other thing that's happening, and we're watching the Chinese markets in the evening. Sunday evening, watch the Chinese markets. If they open up and they finish relatively strong, you're going to see a strong opening in Europe, and then it's going to carry over to here, and we'll get another pop-up tomorrow. So that's a little bit about what I'm seeing in these markets here. I talked about volatility. Bonds has been more orderly today. It was not really a crazy market in bonds. It kind of moved up and then just kind of moved down a little bit. You can see here, let me just get rid of this right here on this chart here so it doesn't cloud the issue here. You can see this down move in bonds, and now just a little bit of an orderly move up here. If I take it down to the 120-minute chart, you can see we broke this area here. We're kind of in a support area here. I do believe bonds is going to work its way down and probably come down here to around 155. That's kind of where I see the bond market coming. Now, keep in mind, in September, we got the Fed meeting. I don't think they're going to raise rates September. I think it's going to be in December, but I think the bond market's going to probably anticipate a possible raise, and I think that's going to put some weakness in the bond market. All right. The other thing that was really strong today, the U.S. dollar, which I've always been bearish the euro, and obviously that would make me bullish the dollar. And you can see the euro just on this 2-hour chart. Let's go back to the daily. It's giving it all up. I'm doing seminars right now over in Europe, so I like a weak dollar. So my my US dollar goes stronger over here in Europe. But you can see it just gave it all up. I mean, boom. I was calling for short calls in the euro market up in this area here, so I think a lot of people in our group did well on that trade. Now, another one that's just remarkable is the oil. We've traded oil very well. For those of you that aren't members, even if you just want to come in and trade some of the commodities with us, man, it'll pay for our membership 10 times over. If you look at oil, we got short right in this area here, and we took about, I don't know, maybe 14 points out of it. That's 14,000 per contract. It came right down to my target here. I mean, literally within 10 cents. I set a tight stop, got stopped out. I'm not playing this bounce right here because we took our profits on this move down. I think it's going to run up a hard bounce, but it's going to start running into some serious issues here around 50 if it makes it up that high, because we still have a lot of drag in the oil markets. So this move is just a huge bounce from the downside. Now, I did this past Sunday night or last Sunday talk about the sector rotation in XLE over the past 2 weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, we've had sector rotation in XLE, so I was suggesting selling puts underneath XLE. And you can see, just like oil, we had this big move here. But again, I'm not a big buyer of XLE, but I knew we were going to get a bounce, so that turned out to be a pretty good trade as well in that trade. Now, there are a lot of other things going on in the market. I mean, just too much to talk here on this session, but if you're not a member, I would check out our Blue Moon special. It is pretty cool. We're doing well here, and especially for you opportunistic traders, it's really great. In the Blue Moon special, you're going to be able to come in. I'm going to be starting a commodity and futures thing where I'm going to be doing those, and you'll be able to get insight into what commodities, long, short, that kind of thing. So if you want to play that, it should be a lot of fun. All right, everybody, have a really great weekend. Remember, Sunday night, our members, I will see you for our weekly market watch. We'll check the Chinese market opening just to kind of get a taste of the wind. Is it going to be a light winter jacket day, or is it going to be heavy? All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys later. Ciao now.